Hi, Scissorin here with another video, and this is about PoE 2, and I will say hashtag ad just because GGD did fly me out to the location and stuff like that. This video is going to be 5 things I like and 5 things I don't like about Path of Exile 2. So we'll start off by the things I like. I was very skeptical going in because I was worried that PoE 1 wouldn't be for me. That PoE 2 wouldn't be for me, and that I would focus more on PoE 1. Ranger has certainly alleviated a lot of that. Start talking about the things I like, and let's start off with WASD. Was very skeptical on that. I'm a big fan of move click, but what I hadn't anticipated was how good shooting and casting and attacking was going to feel while WASDing. I don't think anyone pretty much is going to use point click in PoE 2, especially not early. This might change later if we are able to make like one button abilities work and stuff, but WASD, being able to aim towards where you're looking while moving, just so insanely good. Like, I was so skeptical. It is literally just the fact that you can actually attack while moving makes it a whole new world, especially with spells and stuff. Another thing that was blowing me away was the scale of the boss fights early on. The only thing that would make the campaign bosses not Ubers is just the damage numbers. Like, a lot of them were one-shotting, and it literally feels like really in-depth boss fights early on. Very, very surprised, and seeing like some of the later fights, even in Act 2, which is probably the equivalent of our current Act 3, they're more advanced than most of the bosses in Path of Exile. The fact that this early we're getting that many insane bosses very much feels a bit like Souls-like. I can't wait to see actual map bosses. Next up, we have the beautification of the game, like the audio, the visuals, everything is just, you can see that they're putting so much effort into it. It is so crunchy, and the graphics are just a whole new level. Everything feels a lot more interactive with like things moving around, falling down, changing. Like, the world feels a lot more alive. So just, yeah, the graphics is insane, and the character models and rigging and everything, just very impressed. Now, this is in the I like category, but I guess this should be more of a neutral thing. The game is maybe a little bit too slow when it comes to clear speed, but I'm really appreciating not having PoE 1's clear speed either. I think at some points PoE 1 feels a little bit too much like Vampire Survivors, where you're just zero challenge, right clicking the entire screen. So I do like it when there is some friction. There may be slightly too much friction, but I quite appreciate that it is a little bit slower. And it gives them like a nice place to reset the power creep a little bit, especially now that I know that it can still feel like PoE 2 with playing the Ranger. I was very worried that all of this would feel like my Sorceress experience at ExileCon and in LA. My Sorceress experience wasn't good here either. Mostly just a number thing, like the abilities and stuff look cool. They just need more cast speed, more damage. The game is scarier. I wasn't sure how I would feel about this, and like I talked to everybody in LA and stuff, and everyone's like, we don't know if we're able to start our first character on hardcore. Obviously, like, there will be a beta, so hopefully we might be able to learn enough in the beta that we can start hardcore, and maybe we'll understand like how much we need to over prepare for each boss and over level and stuff. For those that don't know, I've never played a softcore league in Path of Exile 1. Like, I test bosses on standard and stuff, and I do BPL, like events and stuff, but I've actually never created a character on softcore and played it to play on softcore. And I would like to do that in PoE 2, but I'm actually very open to the fact that PoE 2 might be so difficult that I have to learn it on softcore, play it on softcore, and then later when I've really mastered it, maybe after 500 or 1,000 hours, give hardcore a crack and see how far we go. The reason I'm okay with that is you can get and do a lot more in a game with the softcore difficulty aim. So I think that can actually be a cool thing, because obviously I don't play hardcore in Elden Ring, right? I don't delete my character when I die, and I died 300 times on Millennia, and I had such a good time with that. And I died like hundreds of times on the Dancer, and I had such a good time with that. After thinking about it, I'm pretty okay with that. Now, for 5 things I don't like about PoE 2, to start off, trash monsters were way too difficult. I do like that the game is difficult, but I particularly like that difficulty being tied to bosses, and they fully resetting was really cool. I think that's such a good thing that you can't just corpse rush bosses down. Going back to town for potions was pretty annoying. I didn't like that, like, or rather clicking the well. Like, even if it's just going back to town, I don't really agree with or see the point that it adds anything to the game at all to actually click the well. I'm not a very immersive player. Like, I don't necessarily want to feel immersed in the game. I don't feel like that's what ARPGs are all about. I think the only game that I really felt super immersed in was like, well, I guess Baldur's Gate 3, but also DayZ really is probably the most immersive game for me. But yeah, that's not really what I'm looking for in an ARPG. So that just becomes a nuisance. And the fact that it was a nuisance already means that I'm probably not gonna like it after 1,000 hours of having to do it. Now, it does also seem like an early game problem only. So I don't know, maybe it's not an issue. It'll be, we will know so much more in the beta. Obviously, I have not played more than 5 or 6 hours of PoE 2. Flasks, I'm not a huge fan of what they've done with flasks from monsters and things like that. What I would love to see would be, honestly, Ranger had life flask and mana flask charges gain every 5 seconds. Didn't have anything for utility, and maybe utility doesn't need any, but I would love to see every class as a base that just potions, at least life and mana flasks, but ideally potions, when you're not using, or like if you haven't used a potion for a bit, that it gains a flask charge every 5 or 10 seconds. And this is actually kind of nice because it rewards the slower players, right? Like, so if you're zooming, it'll be even harder to manage your potions. That's okay. The fact that you don't get it back from normal monsters was jarring. No phasing and getting stuck in things was pretty annoying. I didn't like that. I'm a little bit worried about itemization. I wish bosses would drop a guaranteed rare item. That way, especially for hardcore, you would be like, well, you know what? I'm a little weak right now, but this boss felt pretty okay. I enjoyed fighting it. I know what it does. I'm going to keep farming this over and over again, see if I can get like a new glove, a new boot, and really reward you for staying in that zone. Instead of having the way it is now where it's like between 0 and 3, I think just having a guarantee of 1 and then maybe the potential of more would be great. But having, when bosses are going to be this dangerous, I think having them rewarding is very important. Another thing I didn't like was the zones. The zones were very large, and I'm okay with the large zones, but what felt kind of bad to me is that it wasn't very obvious where to go. Like, it didn't feel supernatural. So, like, sometimes something would be in the middle of the zone without that having been explained, or in the quest or anything. And I did feel like I was full clearing a lot of zones. I don't feel like that's good. I know, like, backtracking portals and stuff can feel really good, where you get portaled back to a place where you're supposed to be. Another thing they could make up for this is make more eventful things in the zone. Like, if it's a really, really big zone, make it that the dead ends maybe have special chests, extra packs of monsters, like Blood Aqueducts, like side areas, right? They have blue monster packs, so that it makes you feel like a little bit less like a wasted time. It did feel quite bad. So that was pretty much the 5 things I like, 5 things I don't like. I enjoy the idea of PoE 2 a lot more after trying Ranger. I really want to say that because, yeah, no, it just, I was worried it was going to be short gameplay, but they mostly showed us 0 MS movement speed gameplay with no links and abilities, and they've like shown very limited of what we can do. So once you start actually making your own character, it feels a lot better. Also, as a bonus thing, I'm so excited for mounts. I think that's going to be really cool. Anyway, I hope you guys liked the video. Thanks for watching. Thanks again to Chronicle Games for flying me out to LA. And more importantly, sub if you liked the video, but try to die less than I do.